The recording. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Leveraging LMS Templates for Faculty Support and Enhanced Student Success. My name is Bethany Simunich. I'm QM's VP of Innovation and Research at Quality Matters. And I wanted to talk a little bit, first of all, about the collaborative partnership that we've had with D2L for a couple years now. So I want to recognize my big collaboration partner, Dr. Christy Ford. So she and I have been working on things around LMS templates as a faculty support resource for a while now. We co-developed a masterclass that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. We've also done some survey research around this. I'm going to sprinkle in some of those data points, but it really is a great faculty and student support resource, and we're going to focus on that today as well as how to implement. And I'm joined today by Kevin MacLeod from D2L. Kevin, if you wanted to say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for having me here today, Bethany. It's a real pleasure for me to join the Quality Matters family for this presentation. Just a little bit about me. I work with D2L's Learning Services Unit, and I consult with clients on all sorts of educational dilemmas and quandaries and opportunities. So I'm really happy to join today.
Thanks so much for being my co-presenter. Okay, so here's a little bit about what we are going to talk about today. LMS templates in terms of their benefits and some of the problems that they could solve. And also, I'd love to know, while I go through this agenda in the chat, tell me what your role is at your institution. You're a faculty, instructional designer, other type of online staff, because you may be especially interested in the second part of the agenda, where we're going to talk about that rollout and that adoption and really how to strategically think through that implementation strategy. If you're interested in developing and rolling out an LMS at your institution, this is probably the topic I've gotten the most questions on in terms of how do you get buy-in, how do you talk about this? So that's going to be a big part of the presentation today. I see a lot of IDs have joined us. Okay. We're also going to talk then about some things that you would want to consider putting in your template. This is your do-it-yourself option. And this is also the deep focus of that masterclass that I mentioned at the outset. So we're going to give you all the information that you need to connect to that. It is free and publicly available. And then I'm going to turn it over to Kevin, and he's going to do a showcase of the D2L template that is embedded with QM guidance. So you're really going to see a robust example of what a great LMS template could look like and be. So, all right, checking the chat here a second just to see who's in the audience. All right, lots of faculty as well. Wonderful to have you all. Okay, so at the outset, I wanted to provide a definition because this is actually one of the biggest barriers when we start talking about LMS templates. I think a lot of folks come to the table with these preconceived notions of what it is and what it's going to mean for them as a designer or an online instructor. So I wanted to say specifically what we are talking about when we say LMS template. And let me go back. Okay. So it is a web-based structure within the learning management system that provides good organization and navigation. It has a consistent layout for online learners. So it really is that skeletal structure. It often includes links or ways to easily access institutional resources that are specific for online learners so that the faculty can better concentrate not only on designing their course, but also teaching their course. And they don't have to be distracted with questions that are not related to the course itself. And then finally, and this is the big point that I want to make, and we're going to talk more about this in that implementation section as well. It does not impinge on faculty design choices. It does not impinge on academic freedom. And this is one of the big, important, crucial conversations that you need to have around these LMS templates. So they might be embedded with standard design guidance, placeholders, and examples, but faculty still are free to design their course the way that they want and choose that content and those materials and the assignments within that good skeletal structure and that good navigation and layout. So let's talk first about some of the benefits of LMS templates and how it really could be a problem solver and a faculty and student support resource. So past research has shown a variety of benefits, everything from enhancing feelings of social presence because students can more easily interact with both one another and their instructors, get that feeling of community, and sometimes even templates can be branded to ensure that students feel that they're connected, even if if they are in a fully online degree program, for example. Looking at the value and effectiveness of courses, just in terms of students' ease of use and being able to move more easily through that course and find critical elements. And because of that, and it can, allow them to spend more time on that course content and interaction and presence, it can boost engagement. So there is research out there showing that it can boost student involvement and engagement within the course itself and with course content. And also a pretty significant amount of research showing that there's an increase in faculty satisfaction. So it not only can shorten and decrease that burden in terms of design and development, but what faculty have found is that it can improve their teaching experience as well. Because again, they don't have to answer all these questions that are related to technology or where is this or how do I move through this. They can really concentrate on that course specific guidance and mentoring. So it is a faculty support resource, and that is one of the things that I want to say first and foremost. So it is not something, especially in terms of rolling it out, that should just be put down upon faculty, right? This is a conversation about how it's a support resource for you as you're designing and teaching your online courses. So it gives you that good structure to start to develop your course within. So instead of starting with a blank space or a blank page, you get some good navigation, some good structure, even perhaps some structure for modules, and that allows you then to jump right into the design of the course. So you use your expertise in ways that are efficient for your time, rather than really worrying about things like navigation and putting links to the institutional resources to make sure that your students have those. It's also a resource for students. So one of the big reasons that I advocate for using LMS templates is it provides consistency for students, consistency in that layout especially. So that means when they go from this online course to that next one down the line and it's laid out the same way, it reduces that chance that they're going to be spending cognitive load on trying to find things. In my own research, one of the first pieces that I did actually in conjunction with Quality Matters, this was many, many years ago, but I looked at the effect on students in terms of findability. Could they find crucial course components on that first day, like the syllabus, the course schedule, how to contact their instructor? And when they couldn't, their self-efficacy and their motivation for completing and continuing that course was lowered to a statistically significant degree. They also blamed themselves. They started saying things like, if I can't find the syllabus, I don't think I can be successful in this course. I'm not cut out for online learning. So the impact that bad navigation and bad organization and structure can have on students is immense. They also really made a judgment about their online instructor. If they got into that course and it wasn't easy for them to navigate, it wasn't well laid out. I remember a comment distinctly, and this is over 10 years ago, but I still remember this. And one student said, if my instructor can't lay out the course well, I don't trust them to teach the course well. And of course, we know that's not true, but I'm saying that to emphasize the importance of good structure and for faculty to spend their time where their expertise is in teaching and really, looking at the design of that course and focusing on those assignments. It's also a resource for institutions. So I see there's a lot of instructional designers joining us today. I have been in that role as well. And when you are trying to assist faculty in developing a lot of online courses and you're trying to scale up online learning at your institution, which many institutions are doing now, there is a larger call for online offerings and options than there was pre-pandemic. It's hard to scale without good resources like LMS templates. So with this, again, you get that consistent structure. It allows instructional designers as well to be more efficient with their time when they're working with faculty members and working with subject matters and their expertise as well. But also for those of you that are trying to meet accreditation standards or minimum levels even of quality assurance at your institution, you can embed LMS templates with a lot of those quality standards in terms of placeholders or again, static links to things that online learners are going to need. So we'll talk about some of those things in the third part here, but this all is still an ease of use for faculty. So again, instead of faculty saying, well, I really need to attend to this quality standard, make sure my learners are supported. If that's already in the template, again, faculty, you then get to spend more time on designing your course and being present with your students. So we have our first poll here, and First of all, give me a yes or no in the chat. Do you have an LMS template? So this is a question. If you already have an LMS template, I'd like to know the benefits that you have experienced. If you don't have one, but maybe you came to today's webinar thinking, I might develop one. This might be a good resource that we need. What benefits do you think that you might experience? And you can select more than one here. Okay, I'm seeing some of you do and some of you do not. Okay, a lot of you do have LMS templates, and we're also going to talk, for those of you who do, we're going to talk about data collection too for efficacy. So, okay. So I'd love to hear some of the benefits that you personally might have seen from your institution. And depending on how it was developed, it may not have attended to all of these things. Okay, and I see a comment here, we have a template, but it's not required, and we're going to talk about that as well. Yeah, a lot of institutions do take that route. Again, that way, you have flexibility for faculty. Okay, this is interesting. All right, so the majority of you, 86%, said you've seen the benefit of that consistency, that ease of use for online students. About 3/4 of you said streamlined course development. You see some efficiencies there. About 60% of you have seen that as a good resource for faculty, saving their time. 60% helping to meet quality assurance standards and goals. And then only about a third for efficiencies and institutional scaling of online offerings. Okay. So, Christy and I, Dr. Ford and I, asked the same question in our own survey research, and you can see that it actually mirrors pretty closely what we said today, what we saw today. So, this particular sample, we had 199 respondents to it, and the majority of them said yes, this is why they've developed it and the benefits they've seen, that consistency, ease of students, streamlined development, seeing efficiencies there, a resource for online instructors, helping to meet QM standards, and then trailing that an efficient way to scale online. So your responses were pretty much a mirror of what we found in our own survey research. Okay, so the takeaways from this section, and my animations are just being difficult today, but the takeaways here is the LMS template is a support resource. It is a faculty support resource for quality online learning, and it's a student support resource. Research and data have shown proven benefits. What is important, though, is that you lead with what is in it for you or them. So whether it's faculty or students, but really understanding that a lot of faculty might have, be hesitant about this or be unsure how it's going to impact them or impinge on the ways that they really want to design their course. So you need to plan to counter that as a barrier. And that's what we're going to talk about next. Really planning for the adoption of an LMS template. And for those of you that currently do have an LMS template, you maybe have, especially if it's optional, maybe you've hit the limit of faculty who have adopted it or wanted to use it. So you also might gain some ideas for kind of how to re-roll it out and get some new motivation or new interest in that as well. So first and foremost, as I mentioned, be proactive about barriers. I myself at a previous institution, I worked with others to create a LMS template, and this is one of the first things that we did. We started with those faculty conversations to see how they were feeling about it, and really to recognize that they may have some concerns, and we wanted to make sure also that we met their needs. So in our own research that myself and Dr. Ford did, of those institutions who said, no, we don't have an LMS template, 43% said it's because of faculty resistance, right? So I want to talk about that as something that really needs to be a consideration in your implementation and adoption plan. So invite that discussion, invite those questions, right? That is much better than saying we're just going to create this in a vacuum and then roll it out and hope that it's accepted and adopted. I think importantly also, you really do need to define it and talk about what it is and what it is not for your institution. Emphasize that there really is not an impact on design freedom. And you may have, for example, some faculty that are early adopters or early users that can really help you have that conversation. One thing that, I always went to when faculty were, really just confused about this, they weren't sure what, how it was going to impact them. I would sit down with them and I would say, what is it that you really do want to do in the design of your course that you feel you won't be allowed to do or won't have that flexibility to do within the LMS template? And when we were able to have those conversations, I have never yet had a response to that question that somebody said, I want to do this, but the LMS template prevents it, and it actually prevented it, right? So every single instance, it was just about confusion about what the LMS template is and what it was not. So include faculty throughout. They are partners in this. They are going to be utilizing this. And if it is a support resource for them, they need to be part of the discussion. So they should be part of the development, the testing, and also the feedback and the promotion of it. So collaboration and planning are really important here. You really cannot do this in a vacuum. Ideally, you may want to put together a committee of stakeholders that includes faculty and also students, right? So this is a faculty support resource, but it really is also a good support resource for online learners, right? The bulk of you said that was the number one benefit. Our respondents said that was the number one benefit, that consistency and ease of use for students. So include them in the conversation. Determine what needs you want the LMS template to meet, right? So maybe it is efficiencies in design and that help for faculty. Maybe it's that consistency for students, making sure that they are connected to online learning support resources, but really decide why are you creating this or rolling this out? What problems is it intended to solve? And make sure that you collect that baseline data so that further down the road, you know if it actually has met that need. Discuss the structure and functionality. So what do you want it to include? What are some things maybe you want to put in as options? And then provide flexible ways to use and integrate it. You may, for example, consider making it optional. So only 45% of the respondents in the survey research that Dr. Ford and I did said that it was required. 25% said it was required only for some online programs or some online departments or colleges within the university, and 30% said it was optional. So there's no one way to do this. It comes down to your institutional culture and context. But what is also really key here, and this came out in our survey research a lot, this idea of providing training and good support resources along with that rollout, it is often missing. And so you might release a great LMS template, but if you have faculty that are unsure how to use it, unsure how to migrate their materials, or if it's easy, or, do they want to, revise it as they're putting things in the template, without that training and support, we see a lot of that adoption gets dropped, right? So those of you that have existing LMS templates, this might have been, for example, a piece that you missed, training and support resources and something that you could shore up a little bit. Collect evidence for efficacy and improvement. So that goes along with that baseline data. If, for example, you're wanting to make sure that it reduces student confusion, you might look at current level of IT tickets to the help desk for students saying, I can't find this in my course, I can't do this in my course, etc., that are related to problems that the template might solve. And then you can look after the fact to see if those are reduced in classes where students were taking that course that use the LMS template. But it's important to collect that data. I'm going to talk more about that in just a minute, because otherwise it's really hard to communicate the ROI and to say that this LMS template really has saved time for faculty, students, and the institution. So in our own research, Dr. Ford and I asked of these various types of roles at higher ed institutions. And for those of you that have an LMS template, are these folks, were they involved in the development? Were they involved in the review and feedback, the approval or oversight, or not involved at all? And you can see here how collaborative this effort is. In terms of that development, it's really heavy on those online staff individuals. In terms of review and feedback, you see a little bit more involvement with online administration, a little bit more there with faculty. But also, when you look at that not involved column, that dark blue at the end, students are largely not involved at all. They are the biggest group that was completely uninvolved, right? But what I think that you do see here is a picture again of collaboration, where there's folks that are involved in the development, There's individuals that are involved in reviewing things, providing feedback, those that have that sign off and approval, right? And these are all all these different roles that you may have at your institution. You may not have somebody, for example, that is a UXD expert or a professor, but a lot of these other roles you probably do have at your institution. So if you are on the precipice of creating an LMS template, this is a good cue to you for maybe who should be at that table as you start the conversation. So again, as you begin this implementation and rollout plan, make sure that you do focus on the research supported benefits to both students and faculty. So again, for students, that increased engagement and self-efficacy. We also do see in some instances better achievement of those learning outcomes because again, they're better able to focus on things related to the course and not trying to hunt and peck and find everything. For faculty, efficiencies again in that design time and more time to spend with students with interaction and feedback. Also a lot easier to meet those institutional quality assurance standards. So data plan. So for those of you that do have an LMS template, give me a yes or a no in the chat if you have collected any data on this. Data on its use or if it has solved things for you. When Dr. Ford and I asked the question, this is something that is most often missing. And when we've done presentations around LMS templates for the past year and a half, this is frequently missing when we poll the audience. So I'm going to check the chat here. And I do see some no's, a lot of no's. Okay, and some yeses. So good for you. All right, so this is something where you do need to create a data plan for. And again, it comes back to that question of why are you creating the template or implementing it? What problems is it intended to solve? And I have some examples here. Again, reduce those IT tickets from students, positive effects for persistence in the course, for example, course completion, learning achievements, a raise in student and faculty satisfaction, reduce time for faculty, reduce time for instructional designers who are working with faculty, more courses more easily, meeting quality assurance standards. All of these things have associated data points that you could look at. Again, it is really crucial, though, to look at that before picture, right? But it's never too late to start. If you have new faculty that might be adopting an existing LMS template, you could also look at that select group and say, we haven't yet used the template, let me collect some data, and then see, a term or two down the road if we have really helped you with some things and met that need. So again, collect some pre-template data and post-use data, and then don't keep it to yourself. You really do need to communicate that out so faculty know it's worth their time, right? So there is an evaluation portion as well. If you're creating this yourself at the institution, make sure that you do use user testing, and that includes students, right? So faculty and students in the development and testing of the template. Collect some feedback on satisfaction, ease of use, especially for faculty. Again, you're going to have some champions, you'll have some early adopters, hopefully faculty who have been in that collaborative role with you since the start, and allow them to work with you on the template, give you some feedback. And when they feel that this really is a good faculty support resource, they are also your champions in talking to their colleagues about how it can save time, how it can create a higher quality course, how they get to spend more time with their students on teaching once that course runs. Again, just a note on support. So again, this is something we found was frequently missing. Oftentimes it is rolled out and there's some great campaigns around it. Might do a little bit of a campus tour and talk about it with different departments, but faculty need different types and different levels of support and training as well. So you might consider a variety of training or support resources. This could include a screencast walkthrough of the template, and that might be akin to something that Kevin's going to do later on. Maybe some PDFs that could just be handouts that they could follow. You might also offer one-on-one help, right? So an additional faculty barrier with LMS templates is you may already have a course that you're very happy with. You do want to improve the layout and the organization. You do want to move it into the template, but that does take additional time. So if there's a way to offer that one-on-one help where, you could say, let's move a little bit of your course into the template so I could show you the process and we could develop a sort of pattern here so that it's a lot easier and more efficient for you. That's really important if you're able to assist faculty with that. Also, a lot of faculty that I spoke with, they really just wanted to see how it was going to work in practice. So sometimes seeing that template as this sort of skeletal shell in an LMS isn't enough. And you want to see maybe how courses from different disciplines would look, just to have that assurance that, you're not creating a cookie cutter course and you can still have that pedagogical freedom in terms of your design. So this is something that you may want to consider as well, providing examples, creating a sample course where you could ask a few faculty, again, those early adopters, to share theirs and to really talk about their experience as well. They may have some tips to share with their colleagues that kind of made it a little bit more of efficient for them. And also, again, to show that variety and flexibility. Some additional tips. You can also pilot it with a small group first, right? So maybe it's, within a particular program or within a particular department, or maybe just faculty that are willing to, to work with you and say, let's just do a pilot. Let's see how it goes. I want to see the problems that you encounter so that maybe I could provide some solutions for that for future faculty. So use that information to refine or revise the template, or especially to inform the training and promote adoption. So if you have that small group, you also may learn of questions or objections or concerns that aren't something that you wouldn't necessarily think about. But if another faculty member brings them up, you could say, oh, I can understand how faculty might feel that way. Let's make sure that we address that in our adoption and implementation plan. You might also suggest easy ways to try it. So, again, if I'm a faculty member and I'm teaching 4 online courses next term, the idea of putting them all into a new template is overwhelming, right? But are there easier entry points maybe for me? So maybe I have a new course that I'm developing, and I'm really persuaded to try to do it in the template, and then I see the advantages of it, and then that leads me to say incrementally, when I have time, I'm going to work on my other courses as well. Maybe there are courses that are, they're on that maintenance and revision cycle and they are up for a full revision. That's a perfect time to say, I really do want to start this with a much better structure. And if none of those things apply, just try that one course per term, so as time permits, try one, see how it goes. And you also might be able to do a little bit of some other adjustments and revisions and improvements during that time as well. Another really good idea is creating it at the program level first before rolling it out to the institution. And give me a yes in the chat if you have a template for programs at your institution, but not an institutional template. So 30% of the respondents in the survey research that Dr. Ford and I did, they really kept it at that program level. So it could be that you might have an online degree program, and in addition to a good LMS template, you also want that branding, making sure that students feel part of that community, part of the cohort, and also connected to the institution. So that program level is a great way to pilot it out as well. And I'm seeing a lot of you are saying, yes, you do have it at the program level. Some of you are saying both. We have a program option and an institutional option. My previous institution, that's what we did as well. There were similar templates for programs, but they were very much branded for that program. And they also connected them to like networking and things related to the profession that online degree program, was really concerned with. Finally, make it optional. So, I talked about how 30% of our survey respondents said we make it optional. And that's really a great way to get around faculty objections, saying you do not have to use it. But what I suggest is, again, because you've created that data plan and you're collecting that data around the benefits. And when I say data, I mean qualitative and quantitative. So not just, quantitative data like reduced help tickets, but speak with the faculty that have actually used this and say, were you able to spend more time on your teaching? Did you have fewer questions from students that were distracting you from really providing good feedback or really elevating your teaching presence? Did you save time in design? And get some quotes around that. Look at that qualitative data and publicize it, right? There is nothing more powerful than that faculty colleague voice. And additionally, talk to students, because administration, faculty, staff, everybody listens to student feedback as well. So make sure that you're not just looking at that quantitative data, but you're collecting some actual quotes and feedback and qualitative data as well for how folks are experiencing the benefits of the LMS template. So we have our second poll here. So and this is whether you have one or you're thinking about rolling out an LMS template at your institution, what do you think would be vital to do at your institution? So think about your particular institutional context and culture. This is another poll where you could select more than one. It's multiple choice. And there's also an other option there. So if we didn't include an option where it's, this is something I really need to consider at my institution, go ahead and type that in the chat. And I'm scrolling through the chat for questions as you are doing that. Oh, that's a good question. Is there any feedback or survey templates to gather learner or faculty evaluation? It's a really good question. You know what? I can work on something for that, and I will do that in conjunction with Dr. Ford, and maybe that's something even we could add to the master class, Kevin. Okay. All right. So let's see what the results are. All right, 77% of you said providing training and support resources, that's going to be crucial. I'm actually really glad that that's number one because, we found that that was a big kind of unseen barrier to adoption and satisfaction. Gathering faculty and student feedback almost tied with evaluating the efficacy. So having that data plan and putting that in place. About half of you said it's going to be important to address some misconceptions and objections early on. And about 30% of you said embedding that flexibility. Okay. Thank you so much for participating in the polls. I appreciate it. All right, so the takeaways here, and probably the animation is going to go haywire again. It did. Okay. All right. So, takeaways here, successful implementation, it includes collaboration and support. This is not something that you could do in a vacuum and then just give it to your institution and hope everybody's happy with it. Like everything else, really, it should be a collaborative process and conversation from the beginning. Early open communication is really important. Also, testing and feedback, again, from both faculty and students. And that could go a long way in addressing the misconceptions and dissolving that potential negativity. Data really is a must. And again, along with that training and support, Dr. Ford and I found that hardly anybody is collecting data. When we asked about, did you collect data to meet the need? Most of our respondents said, well, anecdotally, we did, but there wasn't a purposeful data plan. There was about 20%, 25% of individuals said, yes, we did. And yes, it did meet the need, but it's how you're going to know that it was successful, right? So again, if it's a faculty support resource, if it's a student support resource, you are developing it for a specific need to address a specific problem, and you won't know if it met that need unless you have the data. One very interesting data point is only one person out of our entire sample, it was over 200 people, but 0.5% said, no, it did not meet the need. So by and large, every single person said that it really did, whether anecdotally or they purposefully collected data. But for a lot of them, even asking them that question, put it on their radar that we do need to collect some data on this and report out those benefits. Okay, the last section before I turn it over to Kevin is really creating your LMS template. And this is the do-it-yourself option, right? This is also what is gone through in detail in that masterclass. We're going to give you the information for that in just a couple slides. So regardless of what LMS platform that you use, you can do it yourself. And we're giving you all the components and everything that you need to consider. And then you can also decide what works best for your institution. So there are some global items that a lot of LMS templates include. So those support resources that I mentioned, especially those that are unique to online learners, you can see there I've tied it back to some QM general or specific review standards, but General Standard 7, all about learner support, that is taken care of when you look at those support resources and making sure that there are those permanent links in there somehow for online learners. Again, as a faculty member, I don't want to worry about making sure I have all these links to different offices to help students around campus or virtually. The fact that they're already in the template for me saves me a great deal of time and thinking as well, cognitive bandwidth. frequently used items. So having quick links to things that students are going to reference a lot throughout the course, like the syllabus, the schedule, getting easily into those modules. Some QM standards that are aligned to that is that sort of getting started, specific review standard 1.1, making sure students know how to get started and move through the course. 8.1, of course, around that good navigation, ease of use. Also, institutional policies and guidelines, so required technology skills, required technology, and also other related institutional policies. Some aligned QM standards there are 1.4, 1.5, and 1.6. A lot of LMS templates also have placeholders in for faculty, and you could do these two different ways when you have a placeholder. You could simply have a placeholder and have that marked, or you could have a placeholder that has examples or a placeholder with editable text. So even within the LMS template, as you're constructing it, there's a variety of ways that you could do this. There is no one way to create it. There is no one way to roll it out. It comes down to your needs and your institutional context. But common placeholders are placeholders, static placeholders for important items, like that welcome message, that course overview and orientation, again, the course policies and syllabus, placeholders for learning outcomes, both at the course and the module level, things for around communication. So really making sure that you're optimizing those opportunities to get presence heightened and elevated on the first day of class. So presence and interaction in terms of the welcome introduction by the instructor, student introductions as well, how to communicate with the instructor, even a nice placeholder for announcements. And then also placeholders for course-specific policies that are really vital. Maybe things regarding late work, AI use. I know that, of course, that's a huge conversation right now. Turnaround time for feedback and grades. And then finally, the third type of thing that we talk about in the D2L masterclass are pre-built structures. So these are a little bit more structured out, but again, the faculty member is able to design within them. So I might have, for example, a structured out start here folder, because that's crucial. It's crucial that when your online learners get in there on the first day of class, they're not confused at all. They know exactly how to get started. They are in that process, in that folder of getting that welcome from their instructor, exploring the syllabus, exploring what the class is going to be about, looking at those learning outcomes. And that way, again, you have that consistency, not just in the overall structure, but in the items that your students have access to on day one. Pre-built structure sometimes for the homepage, how that's laid out. Maybe there's set navigation bars, again, with certain things or permanent quick links, and then also modular layout. This can save a lot of faculty cognitive load in trying to work out how their modules should be laid out. So this way they could have those module objectives with the aligned course learning objectives within there. Some LMS templates might have a place for a nice introduction, which is, I think, a really good space and place along with that summary to really, shine as an online instructor. You can give those takeaways in the summary connected to things that might be coming up later in the course. In the introduction, you can make some connections and anchor it to maybe things that you've been talking about before, or things that might be relevant or prescient in student lives at the time. So those structures exist, and then faculty can, design and put those instructional materials, the activities, and the assignments within it. So this is the masterclass that I was talking about. We're going to put the link in the chat. This is free and publicly available. Okay. And the link that we're going to put in the chat, it asks you to sign up for the masterclass series, and then that will give you access to the QM1. There's also actually, though, a lot of good masterclasses there that you may want to check out. Just putting a little plug for that. They added a new one on AI for educators. So these are all free and publicly available. I think it's a great resource. I encourage you to sign up. We also highlight an additional an additional resource in there, the QM Bridge to Quality Design Guide. If you haven't checked that out, I would encourage you to do that. Again, that's also free and publicly available. It's a good design guide to accompany your LMS templates or other efforts that you're doing at your institution. The other thing that I've asked our host here to do and put in the chat is a PDF, right? This is a PDF that is in the masterclass. And it really takes you through all of the ideas and things that you want to consider if you are developing an LMS template yourself. And it's higher education focused. We've given you some examples. So again, that is in the masterclass, but I also wanted to ensure that you have it here. It's a downloadable resource. It's a great takeaway, again, regardless of whatever LMS platform you are using. So I am going to turn it over to Kevin in just a second, but I want to give him a little bit of an introduction first. One of the things that Christy, Dr. Ford and I found when we were surveying, folks about the LMS template, 30% said they wanted to have an LMS template, but they didn't have one because they didn't have the staff to create one. So a full 1/3 of our respondents who didn't have one said the problem was the lack of staff to create one. For those that did have an LMS template, 85% said, well, we have a dedicated team that really is concerned with the maintenance and the revision and the upkeep of it. You may not have a staff for the maintenance team. You may not have a staff to create it. So QM worked with D2L to create something, for those of you who have D2L Brightspace. And this is a ready-made template. Kevin will give you information on how to reach out about it. For those of you that are not using Brightspace, though, what Kevin is going to show you is the example of a really wonderful, robust template. And you can take those ideas, combine it with the PDF that we put in the chat, and really get some ideas for how to create one at your own institution. So with that, Kevin, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Bethany. And as you said, I'm going to walk you through the D2L Brightspace QM aligned course templates. And as I give an overview of the features that we built out in this template, I'm also going to be pointing out some best practices that anyone can use to build any template for your LMS. So if we look at this, if you look at the left-hand side of the screen here, you'll see a breakdown of the modules in this template. We call these blocks modules, but you might call them units or lessons, whatever suits your institutional context. And this is an example of a couple of different things, but one of them is the pre-built structures that Bethany already mentioned. And so let's start at the beginning here and talk about using this template. And even before that, I'll say, I talk to clients all the time, and in learning services, we often build content for our clients, and we talk about why we start with a template, a good template, because we would never work on a project without them. They increase the speed at which we can operate, and it becomes much easier to produce content with consistent results. So that's one of the things, and that would be the same whether you're an instructional designer or you're an instructor, a faculty member working on your course. And good templates invariably create sort of better student experiences because a lot of the things that take a lot of the cognitive load to build as you're building out your course, the organization, the user interface, the learner experience, they're built into the template from the get-go. So you do that work up front, and it becomes sort of an essential thing for folks who are focused on student engagement, performance, retention. So the bottom line here is good for instructors, good for students. I think Bethany really sort of was very clear on that, and I would echo that wholeheartedly. So let's start with this first section, using the template. This is something that we often find is missing from a lot of institutional templates. It becomes this landing space for faculty or staff who may not have engaged with a template before, might not have used, maybe they've never even taught an online course or built one. It functions as an embedded instruction manual. And this can be especially handy for folks who are designated experts and have a hard time maybe attending a workshop on learning how to design their courses online. It provides them with links for more information. It provides them with best practices. We have links embedded in this using this template to the QM Bridge to Quality Design course. We have links to the master class. So it provides them a place to start and gives them a place to go for more information. So that's where we start with this. And I think embedding those kinds of things in your template are really critical for folks who are engaging with it, especially for the first time. Can we look at the next slide? Thanks. So the next three modules we have here are an example of a pre-built structure. So these, and we explain this in the using this template. This is an example of a series of modules that you can use directly in your course. You can replace the content that is populated there with your own content. It's a model for the structures and practices we recommend for optimal layout and organization, examples of practices and interactions. So they're all elements that help build an engaging learning experience. And what's critical here, the last point, is that each page includes a demonstrated alignment with the QM specific review standards. And this is especially critical if you are already at a fairly an institution where your quality matters culture and practice is mature. It'll help everybody build in alignment and reduces the load on the review down the line because you know you're building in alignment. And if you're new to the quality matter standards, it's something that will help you maintain alignment throughout your course build process. So that's just sort of why we've built them like this, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. We can look at the next slide here. So we have two examples of what the actual template pages look like here. On the left-hand side, we see the Start Here module, and Bethany talked about the Start Here module. This is critical information that for success of students, but also repeatable information, things that might be consistent offering to offering. There are also sections within the template for institutional and course resources that might be consistent course to course or program to program. So on the right here, we see a module structure, and this is sort of an optimized layout of module content. We start with pages with the module introductions and objectives. We end with the module summary and next steps. And in the middle, we have pages that are kind of doing triple duty, and we'll talk about what that means in a second. But what the goal is that they're providing a structure that sort of inspires people who are using the templates to create more engaging content, to create a better student experience, but also makes it easy to do that. If we go on to the next one, one of the big things we talk about a lot with clients, with online educators, is interactivity. How do you increase the level of interactivity in your course? Here we see how we talk about interactivity. We reference the specific review standard 5.2 so that we can find it in the QM rubric. But this is an example of a very simple interaction that helps students move through chunks of content. This provides instructors with an example of how we like to describe it as the art of the possible. It's hard to design something like this without having seen it once or twice. So we build those things into templates so they can see them, they can start to think how they might use them for their course and their content. This is a simple example, but there are others built in throughout. And then I think if we go on to the next slide, the other thing that's embedded within these templates, and this is for power users, this is for instructors and faculty who are really looking to push the envelope. This is for instructional designers who are looking for new and interesting solutions. We have a number of dynamic, static, and layout elements that you can take HTML code snippets. There's instructions on how to do this embedded within the appendix here. And move them into course pages to increase the interactivity of your courses. This is for people who really want to fine-tune the look and the feel of their course, to increase the interactivity, to have students engaged at a very high level with their course content, and move through the content in a very sort of, I don't know, I never want to advocate that we should make things that look and feel nice just to look and feel nice, but it's a very contemporary and interactive experience for students who are used to that kind of experience, and I think that's something to consider. I want to move on to the last page here. These are concepts that can be applied through any template you build, but if you're interested in these specific templates, you can contact your D2L rep. And you can see how you can get these into your own instance of Brightspace. You can also inquire using the QR code if you don't have a rep at the moment. And and you can reach out to us and we can chat through how to build some of these amazing templates into your environment. I know we wanted to save some time for questions, and I think we've done just that.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Kevin. The question here from Jasmine. All right. So Jasmine, you're already connected to the masterclass series, but you can't find the quality learning. If I remember, if you log into your masterclass sort of homepage, you're able to add additional courses. There's a button, I want to say, in the navigation bar in the upper right, because I just did it this morning to add the AI class. But Kevin, you might have better instructions.
Yes, I'll see if I can pull it up so that I can share that with you. Just one.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and escape out of here. Let me stop sharing. So if you're able to pull that up, you can. And I'm going to see what questions in the meantime we have in the Q&A. Okay. Would you respond to faculty's academic freedom imposing student accessibility based from the LMS templates design benefits? All right, let me read that again. Would you respond to faculty's academic freedom? I guess their objections for academic freedom. I'm not quite sure I understand the question. If based on the LMS design benefit. Well, I mean, okay, so you're mentioning student accessibility here and academic freedom. I mean, I can say that LMS templates can definitely help with accessibility issues. Obviously, they're not going to help with accessibility issues in terms of instructional material, getting things closed caption, making sure all the digital materials that the faculty member creates and develops and uploads are accessible. But just in terms of, yes, those good UDL considerations, we had considerations in terms of navigation and layout, they can definitely help with that. Definitely. I'm not quite sure what you're asking here in terms of faculty's academic freedom objections, but again, in terms of academic freedom, LMS templates do not impact how the pedagogical design choices, how a faculty member decides to approach and teach that topic, the instructional materials that they develop or choose to include in the course, the assignments, again, that they develop and choose to include in the course. It doesn't impact any of that. As you can saw from the little tour that Kevin gave you, it gives you, there are some LMS templates like the D2L one that are very robust that will embed some of that pedagogical guidance. But again, faculty could take or leave that. They still are developing the course and they still are responsible and in charge of that design. Yeah, so this was a great question. Feedback survey templates together, learner or faculty evaluation. That is something that I'm going to work on. That is a very good suggestion. And like I said, let me see if I can work on that and we will get that added to the masterclass. And I might also be able to post that on LinkedIn after I complete that. Really good suggestion and question. Thank you. If data wasn't collected initially, how do you suggest we evaluate the effectiveness of the templates? Really good question. So I think a lot of institutions are in that same situation where they rolled out a template. We don't have that baseline data. In that case, I would first and foremost concentrate on that qualitative data. So talk to faculty who are using the template and say, look, you have had now both experiences. You've had courses that were not in the template. You've had courses that are in the template. Did it save you time in design? Were you able to concentrate more on your students and your teaching presence during delivery of the course? What was your experience there? That feedback can still go a long way. If you didn't collect the baseline data, you still may have that data on like IT help tickets. And so talk to the folks that are responsible for supporting your online learners and see if you could kind of tease out if online students are in a course that uses the template versus those that don't. Do they see a reduction? If you have that sort of spot rollout where you might be doing it for a particular program or a particular college or department, college within a university department, otherwise you may be able to get some data that's comparison. So data for the program that uses it, programs that don't. So that's a great question. And there's still ways to get that data, even if you don't have the baseline data. It's also never too late to start. Unless it's required for every single online faculty at your institution, you're going to have some faculty that have not yet used it. So you will have still that opportunity for baseline data. Great question there. Who serves as the manager of the template? Checking links and updating information. Really good question. By and large, in the survey research that Dr. Ford and I did, it really was online staff members, instructional designers, and whatnot. Kevin, I don't know if you have a response to this.
I see it in different places in different units, and sometimes the like a faculty assistant will take ownership of it, but usually it's a teaching and learning office or an instructional design office within the institution that sort of shepherds any updates that have to happen globally. But again, it's useful when you sort of assign that, when you create that, have opportunities, have a feedback button, have ways in which instructors and students can provide feedback in so that as you're updating those things over time, you're responding to real-time feedback.
Yes, absolutely. How do we get access to the D2L templates displayed in the developing an LMS template file? Is there a D2L package you could access and import? So that file was downloaded directly from the master class. So if you get into the master class, we walk you through that sample template that we created, and then that PDF is really a download of it. So there's nothing to really import from the master class because it is for everybody, whether you have Brightspace or not. If you're interested in the LMS template that Kevin was showcasing, though, you can reach out to your D2L rep. Okay, are the templates free since they exist already in D2L if you're a current customer?
They're not free. They are a paid service to add. We do have free templates available, though. They're not QM embedded templates. You can always check on the D2L community. There are different HTML templates available there. The QM embedded templates would be an added service to your D2L environment, to your Brightspace environment.
Right. Okay. All right. And Kevin, did you want to showcase the masterclass page to help people get connected to that?
I'm having some difficulty on my end from an internet perspective, so I'm just waiting to get something
Okay.
sorted out. But
You know what? I might be able to as well. Let me see if I could pull it up. In the meantime, okay, thank you, Irvin. So you had clarified your question. So the faculty's academic freedom impacts their design and delivery, such as limiting the modular organization. So the modular organization within an LMS template, that is structure. That is not design. So even if you might have, for example, a pre-built structure saying you can put your module outcomes here, you can put your content here, and that's all it is in a modular structure. Put your outcomes here, put your content here. Nobody is providing any limitations on what those module outcomes should be, what that content should be, what those assignments should be. So that's what we mean when we're saying it doesn't impinge that. I'm trying to do two things at once. Okay, so I am logged into, let me bring this tab out and screen share it. So this is the master class. Okay, I'm going to walk you through this a little bit. So this is the D2L Masterclass, Quality Learning with Quality Matters. And as you can see, there's different modules here, a little bit of an overview, greeting from myself and Dr. Ford, module on leveraging it for effectiveness as a resource, that module 2, creating an LMS template that walks you through a little bit more deeply those things that I talked about, global items, placeholders. That's also where you will get the downloadable PDF that we shared in the chat. That module 3 highlights that bridge to quality design guide as well. And let's see. This shows you all the other master classes that you're able to also engage with, and they're all free and publicly available. So I encourage you to sign up. I don't know if this will take me home. Yes, okay. So you can see I added it this morning, Kevin. AI empowerment for educators. They also have a new one on reflective teaching. So these are some of the courses that you have access to. Again, open, free, and publicly available. New question in the Q&A. Is there any aspect of the template that is not accessible? I don't think, Kevin, do you want to answer that?
yeah, everything we build, we comply with contemporary accessibility standards. We try to maximize our accessibility to um, a higher standard that is what we're required in most jurisdictions, certainly within North America. I'm just trying to remember the exact name of the standard we comply with, but they are all accessible eh, from a typical screen reader perspective or from any of the other sort of accessibility tools that we use.
And that's a good question too. If you're developing your own LMS template at your institution, you definitely do want to build accessibility into that. So, again, this is not going to, help with accessibility of digital materials, the things that are the purview of the faculty member, those design choices, things related to the course content and assignments. But in terms of that navigation and layout, making sure the links are properly labeled, making sure that any images and whatnot have the correct alt text, all that sort of thing that should be built into your template. You definitely do not want to give any resource to faculty as a support that is not accessible. New question here. Many of our faculty copy over courses from a previous semester. So if there's a template at a higher level, would they need to be cleared out before they could use a previously built out version? So that's what I was talking about in terms of seeing where those easier entry points might be. So unless you're, switching to a new learning management system platform, or you have something else where it's coming up that this course needs wholly revised, that's the situation that your faculty are in, right? They really roll over their courses each term, and to put something in the template, that's going to take that initial time that's going to save them time later on. So what I would suggest to you is, if you're able to offer help, some one-on-one help with faculty, please do that. But otherwise, suggest to faculty that maybe you want to do one course, see how it goes. In some cases, depending on their LMS, they may need to download the material and then arrange it in the template and upload it. Kevin, I don't know if you have any suggestions for that.
Yeah, and I think that initial startup effort is something that'll happen if you're whether you're launching into a new template or you're upgrading from previous semesters. And I don't know whether this question is coming from somebody who's within Brightspace, but I know in Brightspace, if you're moving to a new template, there are some things that you can do and you can sort of automatically populate, and there are some things that are a manual effort. And I think that's pretty consistent across most experiences. What you want to do is sort of choose your times and pick your battles. So we often recommend that when you're doing an overhaul of course content, that's when you also move it into a new template, so that you're sort of aligning these things. And typically we recommend sort of launching a review cycle for your templates. If you establish your template, that you're going to revisit it and you're going to collect feedback, and any emergent issues are addressed immediately. But then you know that in 2 years we're going to be updating that, and we'll roll that out across a number of courses at the same time as we're updating the course content on those courses. I
All
hope
right.
that's
So
helpful.
with that wonderful and very full answer, thank you, Kevin. We're going to end there. We have reached the end of our time together, but I want to thank you all for attending today. I hope you got a lot of good ideas to take away with you. Again, if you have any questions as a follow-up, you can reach out to us at research@qualitymatters.org. Kevin also gave contact information there if you want to learn more about the Brightspace offering. But thank you, all of you who attended today. Great participation in the chat. Wonderful questions. I really appreciate it.
Sorry, I just lagged, but thank you all as well.
All right.